I'm going to show you how to identify Peterbilt trucks built before World War II between 1939 and mid-42. I'll cover wartime and post-war trucks in future videos. Some of the information here you aren't going to find anywhere else. I've spent hundreds of hours reviewing factory build records to identify the features of every truck listed. Let's get started. The Fageol Motors Company in Oakland, California had a 20-year history before it was liquidated in the 30s and was purchased by Theodore T.A. Peterman. By then, Peterman Manufacturing had already been selling Peterbilt branded timber products for several years. Starting mid-1939, Peterbilt begins building conventional trucks as well as a very limited number of one-off cabovers and light-duty fire apparatus chassis. Peterbilt is also doing a lot of rebuilding of existing trucks. In this video, I'm going to focus on the production conventionals. Comparing late Fageol and early Peterbilt trucks side by side, the lineage is obvious. Visually, the basic cab geometry, fuel tank arrangement, the cast aluminum grille, they're all evolutions of the existing Fageol design. Build records for the earliest complete trucks are dated August 1939. There were 15 trucks finished that year. The early trucks all have the rounded cast Eggcrate grille shell. The nickname comes from the rectangular holes in the grille being reminiscent of the dividers in old wooden chicken egg crates. Trucks of this style all had skirted fenders, which Peterbilt called crown fenders, with a chrome bumper. The handle at the top side of the hood indicates it has removable side panels. The removable sides phase out in early 1941. Pre-war cabs came with vents on the side of the cowl. Pre-war hood emblems use the Peterbilt name in script. Rectangular Peterbilt emblems do not appear on trucks until mid-1942. Through the end of May 1940, all Peterbilts had large Dietz Twilight headlights. At that point, smaller, more modern guide headlamps become standard, though the larger Dietz headlights remain optional all the way into 1948. This is an interior shot of the first generation cab, which was used through the end of 1940. The vertical dash has hand-painted, simulated wood grain. Until early 1949, Peterbilt used Stewart-Warner combination gauges with both cream and black dials. A few noteworthy variations. Peterbilt eventually assembled 11 two-axle chain drive trucks between 1940 and 42, including both egg crates and cast radiators. The first integral sleeper cab and the only Eggcrate grill sleeper was built February 1940. I've been able to identify 28 integral sleeper cabs in the records built between 1940 and 48. In the 1940s, out west, a van body truck with a pintle hitch pulling a full trailer was a common long-distance freight setup. Many of these trucks had sleeper compartments built into the body with crawl-through access to the cab. Prior to Peterbilt, Fageol had a long history of cast aluminum radiator models. June 1940 is the first cast aluminum radiator Peterbilt. These pre-war models have a rounded top tank, which is always cast in aluminum with a script logo. Radiator sides on these pre-war models were usually polished aluminum. Mounted low is a steel channel bumper with oak insert beneath a front crossmember with round holes in it. These trucks also received the smaller guide headlights as standard, with the larger Dietz optional. A tough steel radiator guard was a popular option. More than half of the cast radiator trucks built in the early 40s had them. A variation of the cast radiator model designed for logging debuted in June 1940. These had a butterfly hood instead of the removable side panels and usually had heavy-duty flat fenders, radiator guard, and fuel tank shields. A popular option was a rooftop platform, which was accessed via folding steps on the side of the cowl and diamond plate steel on top of the cowl. Just the earliest examples have louvered hoods before they are replaced with the rectangular side vents used on the other models. Both styles of headlight were used, though as time went on, it was the logger spec trucks which were most likely to have the large Dietz headlights. Other cast radiator models could also be equipped with logging options. And because all of these options were available separately, trucks could have just about any combination of features. Starting in early 1941, the cab for all models was redesigned with a taller windshield and new dash. Comparing them, the older low windshield frames have 2 screws on the vertical outer edge, while the updated version has 3. Both cab styles used chrome windshield frames until mid-1942 when wartime production began. The 1941 through 44 tall windshield cab maintained the vents on the sides of the cowl. The new cab had a redesigned tabletop-style dash housing the combination Stewart-Warner gauges. In this photo, you can see the plywood interior panels and a Cummins compression release handle on the side of the dash. This is an August 1941 Model 354 DT logger with the new taller cab. This particular truck was specially ordered with a steel bumper with no oak liner. The 150 horsepower HB Cummins powered more than 80% of Peterbilt production. Air cleaners on the 150s were under the hood, initially 2 and later on 3 small oil bath units mounted on the intake manifold. Nearly all of the trucks built in the first half of the 40s had Spicer 7000 series 4 or 5-speed main transmissions with Spicer Brown Light 3-speed auxiliaries. Rear axles were almost exclusively Timken, either worm drive or double reduction gearing. This particular truck is noteworthy because it was a one-off heavy logger and was the most photographed pre-war Peterbilt. Assembled in June 1941, it was designated a Model 364DM. All 40s tandem chain drives are designated 364s. This unique truck was bought by the Snoqualmie Falls Lumber Company. It had the taller cab and a 200 horsepower HBS supercharged Cummins diesel. The truck was pictured in the 1977 Peterbilt calendar rendered in red, though in reality the truck was originally green with black chassis and red wheels. 1941 annual production of regular conventionals hit a high of 87 trucks. In the pre-war, Peterbilt model numbering was straightforward, but as the 1940s wore on, model numbers had little bearing upon the appearance of the truck. Peterbilt models had 3-digit designations, with numbers in the 200s indicating single-drive trucks, both 2-axle and tag-axle versions. Tag axles were very popular in the 1940s. Live tandems were designated with model numbers in the 300s. Peterbilt continued to use this numbering system for 40 years. Eggcrate grill trucks were designated models 260 for single drives and 334 for live tandems. Initially, the cast radiator trucks were also designated 260 and 334. The logger spec trucks were designated 354 and the big chain drive tandem a 364. In the first half of 1941, the cast radiator models were redesignated 270 and 344, while the 354 logger designation remained unchanged. Model designations in this era also contained 2 letters at the end of the model number. The first letter indicated whether the engine was gas or diesel powered, and the second letter indicated the general style and rating of the drive axles. If you'd like to study up on pre-war model numbering, pause the video here. The factory became increasingly inconsistent with the letter designations, and by fall 1942, most variations are abandoned. Though the features of the existing cast radiator models remained unchanged in the first half of 1942, the December 41 Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor would bring significant changes to Peterbilt, the first one being the January 42 creation of the Federal War Production Board, which rationed civilian truck production, dictating how many trucks Peterbilt could manufacture. Excluding the cabovers and fire chassis, 100 eggshell grill trucks were built between summer 1939 and October 1941, with one more built in May 42. 106 cast aluminum radiator trucks, including loggers, were built from June 1940 until World War II interrupted regular production in July 1942. The transition to the taller cab with flat dash occurred early 1941. In the next part of my Peterbilt in the 1940s video series, I will discuss Peterbilt's military and wartime civilian production. Please like this video and share it with anyone interested in early Peterbilts. Subscribe to my page to see future videos about old trucks, and let me know in the comments what old truck topics you'd like me to cover in future videos.